Welcome back, guys. I've been banned for 2 weeks again because I said something that violates the YouTube medical policy. Again, I didn't make the video about medical anything. I just happened to slip up. So I think from now on, if I'm going to talk about anything that's not sports related, if it's about the systems of the world, the deceptive practices of the world, I'm not gonna fly off the head. I'm not gonna fly off the dome. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start writing down my notes. I'm gonna outline what I'm gonna say. Like I'm gonna have like particular topics to make sure that I stay on topic. Because sometimes I tend to veer off topic, but it's still kind of on topic. I start to kind of delve deeper into other components of whatever major topic I'm talking about, then I end up saying something that gives me a strike. So as I'm speaking right now, if I get one more strike on YouTube, they're gonna ban me like for life, like forever. So that's what censorship does. It controls what people say. So I have to be careful. But anyway, that's another topic for another day. The reason why I'm making this video is because I've been waiting to make a video. Actually, I wanted to make a video before the Colorado game, before the first game, but I was banned. So I couldn't make my commentary on the first game against North Dakota State. And now I can make a comment now, but that's how long I was banned. 2 weeks. And 2 weeks have passed in the college season. So I'm back on. So remember what I told you guys at the beginning, that I don't think that Colorado's going to be as good as people think that they are. I did say, remember, I had a interpersonal battle within myself, or intrapersonal battle within myself. I was sort of thinking like, okay, I know they won 4 games last year. They were 4-8. They started off winning their first 3 games, end up losing 7 of their last 8 games. And I started to think, people started to talk about, they have all these, it's Shedeur senior year, Travis Hunter's going to be better. They have all these guys from the transfer portal. But again, I wanted people to kind of pump the brakes a little bit, because I don't see, like, when you're, okay, let me be realistic here. If you look at traditional programs that have rebuilt their programs, because every program goes through, they go through their ebbs and flows, they go through their ups and downs. And Michigan, it happened to Michigan, they won their national title. It happened to Alabama before Nick Saban got there. Even Georgia, every powerhouse, Ohio State, yeah, for the most part, they're always going to be ranked in the top 25. But I'm talking about dominance. If you want to put a college program in a particular position where they're being talked about as being contenders year in and year out, well, it takes time to do that. It has to be organic. It has to be authentic. And the only problem I've had with Prime in Colorado is the hype. Now, part of the hype is part of the package. I was listening online the other day. It talked about how, what Coach Prime has done for Colorado. He's increased revenue. He's impacted the economy. They have more people that are actually enrolling in Colorado, more African American students that are now enrolling in Colorado University. Games are being sold out. So from an economic standpoint, the things that Prime has done for Colorado is great. But in terms of football field production, wins and losses, I'm not going to say it's a disappointment. I think that a lot of people, the hype and the production are not aligning. But the hype is Coach Prime's doing, because his style, his essence, his aura, his magnetic personality, his polarizing stature. Either you're going to love him or you're going to hate him. Either way, you're going to be tuning in. It's sort of like that Mayweather effect, right? When Mayweather was a boxer, a lot of people hated him because they were like, oh, he's all about money. He thinks he's all that. He's arrogant. I want to watch him get beat. Then you had others who just loved Mayweather. So it's either you hate Prime or you love Prime. He's that type of character. But with that said, the hype is not aligning to the production. The teams they beat, North Dakota State, they didn't really dominate North Dakota State. They did not. They won. When they played Nebraska, they got dominated. These are the same things that we saw last year. The good teams they play, they get dominated. The teams that they're supposed to beat, they barely beat. Now, I think that what happened last year with them coming out winning 3 games in a row, that was smoke and mirrors, because no one knew what Colorado was. TCU was not the same team that went to the national championship game. They were not the same team. They ended up beating, I forgot the second team that they beat. They beat Nebraska, but remember, Nebraska, that was that coach's, I forgot the coach's name, but that was his first year there. But you see the turnaround. You see what he did there. Both he and Coach Prime came and took over teams for their first year. So last year, when Colorado, led by Coach Prime, played Nebraska, the coach for Nebraska, and somebody leave a comment, I forgot, Matt Rule, I think that's his name, Coach Rule. Matt Rule, something like that. Matt Rule and Coach Prime, aka Deion Sanders, they were both first-year coaches at that, not first-year coaches overall, but first-year coaches at their respective schools. Colorado beat Nebraska last year, okay? But you see what Matt Rule did? He recruited a freshman quarterback who's going to be good. He's going to be good. He's getting the guys that he wants. It's organic. But look at the turnaround. When Colorado beat Nebraska, they didn't dominate Nebraska. They beat them. They didn't dominate them. And a lot of the things that Nebraska did last year, they shot themselves in the foot with a lot of turnovers by the quarterback. Fumbles, turnovers, interceptions, and things like that. This year, with a competent quarterback at the helm, you see the difference of what Matt Rule has done in Nebraska. He's slowly turning that program around organically. There's no hype with Nebraska. They're not on social media that much. No one's talking about them. We come in, we're going to dominate. Even the comment that Coach Prime made before the game when he was like, "Oh, we're going to get him. Oh, we're coming." Nothing happened. I don't even think the quarterback got sacked. I forgot the quarterback's name for Nebraska, but I don't think the guy was sacked at all. So I think that a lot of the times Coach Prime speaks as if he's the one playing. In his playing days, he can speak with that amount of confidence because he could rely heavily on his physical, his physical talents and his physical gifts. But that's the problem with a lot of times with great coaches and great talent. When they take over teams, they tend to reflect or put their own personal take on the game, on their players. So in essence, they're writing checks that they can't cash, that the team can't cash. What Matt Rule is doing in Nebraska is organic, and you're going to see a slow development of a team that increases their production and increases their win. They're going to be better in the win-loss column. That's what I'm trying to say. And what you're going to see with Colorado is pretty much the same thing that you saw last year. Now, I'm not saying they're going to lose 7 of their last 8 games, but they don't look good. There's something that's missing, and I'm going to tell you what I think is missing. I didn't watch the post game because I was so disappointed in how they played. I know a lot of people are going to say it's the offensive line's fault. I mean, how many times are we going to blame the offensive line? Some of the play calling that we saw was horrendous. Oh, there was a 4th and inches, I believe, and as Shedeur goes into a shotgun. What the hell are you doing? Most of the runs that they ran were non-creative. They're just running up the gut where the defense knows what you're going to do. They don't know how to, because their defense is subpar. Their defense is okay. I'm not going to say their defense is above average. I would rather lean to below average. If your defense is not that good, Coach Prime, I would think that you need to run the ball to keep the offense off the field, the opposing offensive team off the field. They play too fast, but it's to their detriment. Colorado plays too fast. First down, second down, third down, punt. First down, second down, third down, punt. Like they don't really have that much time of possession when they play. And it's the play calling. Yes, the offensive line may not be that great, but because there's so much hype behind Shedeur should be used for a decoy. And I'm going to tell you guys what I mean by that. And I want you guys to leave a comment and tell me what you guys think about this. Since everyone thinks that he's such a great quarterback, and he has a good arm, he has good receivers to throw to, and that's the part that's disappointing to me when I look at Colorado. They have the talent in terms of the places that you need them. But this should be a lesson for all people who are novices to the game of football. Football isn't about the ancillary pieces. Let's call them ancillary pieces because that's exactly what they are. You can always find 4-3, 4-4 guys. You can always find guys that are fast. But find guys that can block in the trenches, because that's like the engine of the car. No matter how externally beautiful a car is, if the engine is crap, then the car doesn't mean anything. It just looks good. It's good to look at. Travis Hunter is good to look at. Two-way player, making incredible catches. Horn Jr., great receiver, fast, great return guy. And the other guy, Lex Wesley, I think that's his name. There's another receiver that they have that's also good as well. So when I look at the team, I'm like, you guys have the parts that are more like glamour parts, the parts that everyone sees. You know, what glitters is not always gold, but they have the glitter parts, the parts that glitter, they shine. So automatically, a person who's not a true football fan or a true football aficionado who actually knows the game will think, oh, look, they have fast receivers and fast running backs. You can get speed anywhere. Now, there's some that are just exceptionally faster than everybody else. But for the most part, you can find speed anywhere. But what you cannot find, and what you cannot just insert and make it go like that, is an offensive line and a defensive line. That's the engine of every football team. Most teams that dominate have strong offensive lines. The speed stuff is just a symptom of what the offensive line allows to happen. So if a quarterback has 4 or 5 seconds to throw the ball, he's going to find a fast receiver. If the offensive line can open up holes, the fast running back can get through those holes and get 4 or 5 yards a pop. So the problem with Colorado is that they should use Shedeur as a decoy. Now, before I go into the decoy thing, let me say one thing. A lot of you guys are going to give me pushback on this. Is it just me, or when the backup quarterback comes in, Colorado seems to be more competent? They seem to be more of a competent team, and I think that's the direction they need to go in. They need to have a running back that can run and throw. Because Shedeur can't use his feet that much, in college football, the only way you can be a Tom Brady-esque type of quarterback is if your offensive line is just stellar, way above average, superstar type offensive line, an offensive line that dominates. Because in college football today, most teams that are good have running backs that are capable of being a dual threat. Okay? Look at Alabama's quarterback, Milrose. Even look at even the Texas quarterback, Quentin Ewers. I forgot his last name, but the Texas quarterback. He's not a dual threat, but he can move. He can run. Shedeur can't run. He scrambles around for time to throw the ball. Their personnel for Colorado is not conducive to success with a quarterback like Shedeur. The backup quarterback, I forgot his name. I'm bad with names. Sorry, guys. I need to start writing names down. But you guys know who. If you follow Colorado sports or Colorado college football, you know who that backup quarterback is. It's the white kid. When he comes in the game, now he may not be. He's not a I'm not saying he's not a good passer, but he doesn't throw the ball as well as Shedeur. But because of the dual threat component, it keeps the defense off balance. Therefore, it allows Colorado to look more like a competent football team. When Shedeur is in there, you know what you're going to get. Drop back passing. This is why the defensive line, they're all pinning their ears back trying to crack his skull. That's what they're trying to demolish him. Because they know what's coming. They don't have to have lane gap, responsibility or lane gap discipline. To hell with lane gap discipline. I'm just shooting straight for the quarterback. But if you knew the quarterback can run, you're going to be a little bit more circumspect in your approach. So that's the problem with Colorado. They're trying to showcase Shedeur as a pocket passer, which he is. And I think in the next level, he'll do well there. If he's with an offensive line that's good. But the type of offensive line that he currently has is not built to give him 4 or 5 seconds to pat the ball and throw. It's just not. And I don't think the offensive line is bad. I just think that in college football nowadays, if you do not have a dominant offensive line, which most college teams don't, there's only probably a handful that have a good dominating offensive line that could both run block and pass block. If you don't have that, you're going to have a dual quarterback. Now, if you have a dominant offensive line and you have a dual threat quarterback, sky's the freaking limit. Well, with Colorado, they don't have a dual threat quarterback and their offensive line is not dominant. So that's why you have Shedeur being in constant duress. It's not that the offensive line is bad, folks. It's because they're predictable. I've been saying this for the longest, but because people who just want to look for somebody to blame because they believe so much in Shedeur and Prime, I believe in them too, but I'm a realist. I'm just looking at what's happening right in front of my eyes. Shedeur is not a dual threat, and the offensive line can't hold up. They're doing the best that they can. So let me go back to the decoy comment that I stated that I was going to talk about earlier that I'm going to talk about now. You say, what do you mean by using Shedeur as a decoy? Using it as a decoy. Everyone thinks he's going to pass. Run the ball more. Run the ball more. You still would have got blown out. Okay, put it this way. For you guys that are saying they can't run the ball because there's not. And I said this before last year. With as many times as they tried to pass the ball, and we saw how unsuccessful they were, we saw how many times Shedeur kept getting hit under duress, nowhere to go with the ball. That's not being successful. So you have two choices. You can either A, commit to insanity by continuing to do the same shit. Let me not curse. By continuing to do the same thing over and over again, thinking that the defense is going to just say, oh, okay, let's just take it easy this time on him. No, you're too predictable. So you can either keep passing, which is insanity because obviously it's not working, or you can just say, you know what, the game is over, let's try to run the ball more, and then pass off the run. I don't see them do any play action. I don't see that even the running plays that they run is just straight up the middle. If your offensive line is already subpar in terms of pass blocking, and anyone who studies football knows that pass blocking takes a little bit more skill and takes a little bit more time to develop than run blocking. Because run blocking, all you have to do is just push your man back. It's just a matter of power and will, shifting your man. Whereas in pass blocking, you need to stand upright, have your good foot movement, and your offensive line, they all have to be, the chemistry between your offensive line has to be great. You guys have to be on the string. And that's why it takes time. That's why most offensive line have been together for years. And if you look throughout college football, even in the NFL, the good offensive line are offensive lines that have been together for about 2 or 3 years. You keep getting guys from the portal, you're never going to have that cohesion and that chemistry that you need to be successful on your offensive line. It's not going to happen. Now, you can have a decent offensive line, but they're not going to be dominant. That's why when they put in a backup quarterback, to me, Colorado looks like a more competent team. They to me, when I'm watching them, they look like they're harder to stop because of the running ability of the backup quarterback. Shedeur can't run. He doesn't have the speed to run like that. He's heavily dependent on his arm. So if you have a quarterback that's heavily dependent on his arm, you need a offensive line that's well above average. It doesn't mean that Shedor's a bad quarterback. He's a good quarterback. It's just the offensive line is not made for him. If you put Shedor with Georgia, if you put Shedor with any college team that has a great offensive line, you'll see the best of Shedor. Go to look at the way Shedor played at the HBCUs. Go look at his highlights. He had time to throw the ball. If you give that guy time, he will carve you up. But in Power 5 conference football, it's not like that. They're coming at him. They're coming for his throat. You have guys on the defensive line that are NFL prospects. Remember last year when they played against UCLA, they had like 3 guys on the defensive line that were NFL prospects. And I think they all got drafted. They destroyed Shedor. So that's the problem. You have several issues with Colorado. The overhype that's brought on by Coach Prime, it's his own doing. But if you're going to have that kind of hype, then match it. Just like when LeBron James came out of high school, he had a lot of hype, but he overexceeded the hype. Okay? Right now, there's a lot of hype behind Colorado, but they're not performing up to the hype. That's why I call it overhype. It's over-exaggeration. They look bad, guys. They don't even look like a competent football team. They look like a JV team. They look like a football team that doesn't belong in a Power 5 conference. I'm serious. I know people talked about they were 1-11 before Coach Prime came, but that starting last year with winning the first 3 games, starting off 3-0, and them losing their last 7 of their last 8 games, they look more like a 1-11 team. They have the flashy players with the Travis Hunters, Horn Jr., Shedors. They have the names, but in terms of the product, if I could sprinkle some type of fairy dust upon the minds of the people that are watching Colorado football, right? And I gave you guys selective amnesia, where you guys didn't even know who Shedor was, and you're just watching Colorado for the first time, objectively. You don't know who Coach Prime is. You don't know who Shedor is. You don't know who any of these guys are. You're just watching. Just use your eye test. They look like a bad team. Period. Because you would watch the game, you wouldn't shift blame. You'll say, "Oh my God, why do they keep passing the ball? Man, the offensive line is horrible. This guy has no time. Why don't they do something else?" The thing is, you have a father who's the coach of the son who wants the son to excel. Because of that emotional attachment to the son, it's hard to be objective and insert logic in your game scheming. You say, "What do you mean by that?" Because you feel like your son needs to showcase his skills and talents, which we all want to see Shedor's skill and talent. We all want to see it. But your offensive line is not built for that. So as a father, you're going to have to reel it back a little bit and be more run heavy. You have to be. That's what I believe they need to do. So you have overhype. You have the overhype part that you need to consider. They're not matching that. You have an offensive line that's not actually conducive to the success of Shedor because of Shedor's style. He's not a runner. He's not a dual threat. 3, the offensive calls that they run, the plays that they call, they're too predictable. They're too predictable because a lot of the times they find themselves behind the sticks. And the room for error for Colorado is very small because good teams can make mistakes and still win. Because Colorado is not a good football team, they can't make mistakes. They need to almost play perfect to win. They need incredible catches, incredible runs. They need out of this world type of plays, out of the world type plays to make them even competitive. The game was over with. That 28-10 score it's worse than that. They got blown. It was 28-0. The last 10 points were just Nebraska probably let them have that. Okay. Yeah. So their next game is Colorado State. I'm telling you guys. Remember, I said that realistically, I see them being 6-6, and we have to see Colorado being 6-6 a successful season. Being that they only won 4 games last year, the first 3 games they won to me was more of a fluke, but I'll give them that. They did win them, but then it doesn't match because if you come out that strong, how do you lose your last, Out of the 8 games you play left after that, how do you lose 7 out of your 8 games? And then you start off this year, you barely squeak by North Dakota State. Yes, I understand a win is a win, but you barely get by them. You get blown out by a competent football team like Nebraska. Colorado State played well, even though they lost their last game. I forgot who they lost to. Colorado State is a good team. They beat Colorado last year. I think the same quarterback last year is there for Colorado State again. So I see Colorado State beating Colorado. I just do. If the same game plan for Colorado is to do the same damn thing, then we're going to see them lose again, guys. And we can all blame the offensive line. It's not the offensive line's fault. They're doing the best that they can. They're competent. They're good. The schemes need to change. Be a run-first team and pass off the run. All right? Till next time, leave a comment. Tell me what you guys think. Peace.